Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We appreciate you coming out once again for XDD's monthly educational webinar series. We are pleased to have with us a special guest speaker this week named Mark Lanternman, who is a very experienced expert in digital forensics and cybersecurity, and he'll tell you a little bit more about his background in just a moment. As always, we are pleased to have a very diverse mix of registrants and guests from law firms, corporations, government agencies, and service providers. Welcome. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. And as always, this is an interactive program. Please feel free to use the question box in the GoToWebinar interface to submit your questions to Mark throughout the program. And at the end, we will take time to go through all of those that you have submitted. And as always, you will receive a follow-up email coming tomorrow from Bob Lorem at XDD, which will provide you with a link to a recording of the program and a survey where you can give us feedback or request topics for future programs. So with that, I will turn it over to our excellent guest speaker, Mark Lanternman. Mark, please take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Mark Lanternman. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Computer Forensic Services. We're located, our home office is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have offices also in Los Angeles, Denver, Jacksonville, and Naples, Florida. Prior to joining CFS, I was a forensic analyst and supervisor with the U.S. Secret Service Electronic Crimes Task Force. I've been conducting forensic projects and cyber incident responses now for the past 28 years. I've testified in 2,092 cases, but who's counting? I'm currently faculty at the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C. and the National Judicial College in Reno, Nevada. I'm also faculty at the University of Minnesota, Mitchell-Hamlin Law, St. Thomas Law, and I'm honored to be joining faculty at Harvard Law in 2019. So anyway, enough about me. Coming into today, I wanted to put myself in your shoes. If I was you, what would I want to hear about? So these are the topics that I've chosen for us to discuss today. The first is the Internet of Things, and this is really the topic that keeps me up at night. You know, if you think about it, technology has made our lives much more convenient, and our businesses are now able to operate much more efficiently. But my general rule of thumb is whenever we gain convenience, we always lose a little bit of security. So I thought that we would talk about the Internet of Things, and I'm going to show you live several devices that are currently connected to the Internet with no usernames, no passwords, that perhaps should not be connected to the Internet with no usernames and no passwords. The next topic is phishing, and I know you guys deal with this every day. These are these scam emails, but I thought that it would be important for us to discuss phishing because, well, frankly, if I was going to attack you, that's how I would do it. So we're going to take a little bit of time and talk about phishing. The next topic will be Rescator and the Carbanic Gang. No, that's not a new reggae band on Spotify. It's I want to talk about the ongoing attacks against our credit card processing systems. And then to wrap up, you know, my thinking is perhaps you've never heard of the dark web, and maybe if you have, maybe you've never seen it. So I thought that today would be a good opportunity for me to take you on a live tour of the dark web. My office, our company, is Crime Lab for 38 law enforcement agencies, and I'm going to show you a number of cases that passed through my office sometime in 2016 from law enforcement agencies. So these are not cases that are 20 years old that we're discussing. These are recent cases. Now, Before we get to the Internet of Things, I wanted to share with you one of my favorite pictures. In 2016, last year, I was honored. I was asked to speak at one of the largest cybersecurity conferences in the country, being held in New York City. So I show up to pick up my name tag, and I walk up, and here it is, and you know, there's no one sitting there to give me my name tag. So the first thing is I have an unattended laptop at a cybersecurity conference. But then I look down and something catches my eye, and I think, oh, this is too good to pass up. So I took a picture. And this is at one of the largest cybersecurity conferences in the country. You know, I love the password. That's now the password to all of my online bank accounts. But, you know, the point is that even those of us in security, those of us who are practitioners, we can sometimes be so arrogant that we don't follow our own advice. So the takeaway here is don't be that guy. Now, I wanted to start with the Internet of Things. And our offices are based in Minneapolis. And in January and February of this year, a suburb of Minneapolis, a city of Blaine, they lost water. Water is gone. They have no water. Schools are closed for several days. The city releases a press release saying, hey, residents, once the water does come back on, make sure you boil it before you drink it. Gross. City officials said that the loss of water was caused by an internal power supply failure. So think of it as like the fuse blew at your house. But what got my attention is this bottom sentence. The power supply since has been replaced. Kudos. And the city will consult outside experts to audit the utility for security improvements. Now, the last time you blew a fuse in your kitchen, did you immediately think, hey, I need to do security improvements? Probably not. So this got my attention. We're a crime lab for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office in Minnesota. Blaine is in Anoka County. So we don't work with them, but we know the investigators. So I contacted the detective sergeant, and I asked him, hey, is there a police report about this power outage? Yeah. Can I get a copy of it? Well, Mark, I'd rather not. We're trying not to disseminate it. I said, okay, I get that, but what if my lawyer files a data practice request? Can I get a copy of the police report then? He said, oh God, Lanterman, come on, no, don't do that to me. Okay, I'm going to send it to you, but you have to promise me that you won't disseminate it. So I'm not going to disseminate the police report, but I'm going to show it to you. So on my next slide, I'm going to pull up 3 short paragraphs from the actual police report. Now, I hate slides that have a lot of words on them, so don't worry about reading too much. I'll paraphrase as we go through the 3 paragraphs. So these are screenshots from the actual police report. Paragraph number 1 basically says, I'm the detective and the chief of police told me to start a criminal investigation into this water outage. Sounds like a good idea. Paragraph number 2. Okay, so as the detective investigating this case, I know that the water processing plant here in Blaine, I know that we have security cameras. So I'm going to go to our public works department and I want to see the security footage from the security cameras. But when I arrive, I'm told that the DVR, the video recorder, has been beeping for a couple of months, beep, 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 and the beeping is driving us crazy, so we unplugged it. Genius. So we have no security footage. Okay, so plan B, as the detective, I want to see the security event logs from the servers, from the computers that control the water processing plant here in Blaine. And I was told, oh, wait, those security event logs, yeah, we only store them for 24 hours. They don't exist anymore. So now I'm starting to understand why the police department did not want this report disseminated. So I turned the page, one word, redacted. And I looked it up. You know, lawyers, you guys have great words. It means I'm not going to show you what's on this page. And in fact, I have 14 blank pages. Now, as a former criminal investigator, I know that's pretty unusual. Typically, we would only redact names of victims, names of juveniles, but here we have 14 pages redacted in their entirety. So I turned the page, and remember, this is the police report. I, the detective, I reviewed Minnesota State Statute 609, blah, blah, blah. You know, 609 is Minnesota's criminal code. So before, whenever I was working on a case, and before I would submit the case for charging to the U.S. Attorney's Office or maybe to the County Attorney's Office, I would always review the statutes to make sure that I satisfied the elements of every crime that I was alleging. And here, so the detective is considering submitting this case for criminal charges. And I don't know how you criminally charge a blown fuse. And this statute is damage to property of critical public utilities, which is a 10-year felony, $20,000 each occurrence. And this city lost water not once, but twice, once in January of 2017 and again in February of 2017. But then I really like the final two sentences. I consulted with the Anoka County Attorney's Office, and they advised that without intent, they would not prosecute. How do you prosecute a blown fuse? How do you prosecute a defective power supply? But my favorite here is, oh, and our chief of police even contacted the FBI. How many of you, when you've blown a fuse, have thought, oh, I'm calling the Fed? Yeah, me neither. So this takes us to the topic that keeps me up at night, and it's the Internet of Things. If you think about it now, everything is getting connected to the internet. Our smart TVs so that we can stream Netflix, our Hue light bulbs, our appliances, our cargo ships, our over-the-road truckers, security cameras, our nanny cameras that we use to make sure that our kids are safe in the backyard, and that creeps use to make sure that our kids are safe in the backyard, our cell phones, our computers, and our water processing plants. So I thought it would be interesting to show you live a couple of devices that are currently connected to the internet right now that have no usernames, no passwords whatsoever. Now, let me just say, I think that it would be tacky of me to call out any organization without first giving them an offer, without first contacting them, explaining to them what the problem is, and then offering to fix it for free. If they don't take me up on my offer, then they become an example in my presentation. So let me show you what I found. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the city of Toccoa, Georgia or not. I had not heard of Toccoa, Georgia. So part of my job, one thing that I do is I conduct security assessments for corporations and other types of organizations like government agencies, corporations, law firms. And basically a security assessment is I'm looking for ways that a hacker can attack you. So in this case, I was working on a project for a county in Minnesota, and I stumbled upon 17 devices on the internet with no security that I traced back to the city of Toccoa. Now, I contacted the city of Toccoa. I contacted Mr. Scott at that phone number. I explained to him who I was. I told him to verify just so that he was satisfied that I am who I say I am. And I explained to him, Mr. Scott, I have 17 of your devices on the internet, no username, no security. I'm about 99% certain that I know how to fix this for you. Could you have your IT staff give me a call? I'll explain to them what I'm seeing, and better yet, I'll even tell them how I think they can fix it. And Mr. Scott was very gracious. Mark, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your help on this. We take our security here very seriously. That was obvious. I will have my IT guys give you a call immediately. I said, great, I'll be waiting by the phone. So I waited by the phone for 6.5 weeks, and I never got a phone call. So I called Mr. Scott back, and Mr. Scott, remember me, I never heard from IT. What's going on? He said, oh, Mark, I'm sorry. How do I put this? I talked to my IT guys, and they said everything is secure. Okay, well, how do they know if they don't talk to me and they don't even know what I'm talking about? So, Mr. Scott, why don't we do this? Can you conference your IT guys in on this call? Oh, Mark, my IT guys said that they don't want to talk to you. I said, okay, that's fine. Well, you let them know that you're going to be an example in my next presentation. So let me show you what I found. I am connected to the water processing plant of Toccoa, Georgia, live right now. No username, no password. I simply opened up a browser and typed in an IP address. Now, you see where it says water valve open, and that says off. So that means that the water valve is closed. What do you think happens if I click on? And no, that's not part of today's demonstration. But, what if I was 13? And let's say I'm not very mature, because 13 and mature, they don't really go together. And let's say I'm 13 and I want to show off for my buddies at school and show them what a cool hacker I am. And I find this site and I decide to click on, and I open that water valve. Well, the water has to go somewhere. So now I'm going to flood the storm sewers in Toccoa, and they're going to overflow into the streets, and perhaps I damage property, or worse, maybe people now get hurt. Maybe people die because the streets are flooded and emergency response vehicles can't make it from one side of Toccoa to the other side. Is that the kid's fault? Of course. Is that the city's fault? Absolutely. But isn't it also the responsibility of manufacturers, of vendors, to create products that, while taking advantage of technology advancements, shouldn't we also be thinking about security? We're making products that are super convenient, but whenever we gain convenience, we lose a little bit of security. Now, the next example I want to share with you is this one. And I really like this, well, I guess you call it a banner. The login for user is set to not check the password. Just click the login button. Can't get much more convenient than that. The problem is this is the HVAC system of the second largest data center in Nashville, Tennessee. So what if I just click log in and on a Friday night, I turn off the cooling center or the cooling system inside of this data center? Now, as luck would have it, they were planning for that, because when the temperature reaches 89 degrees, the cooling system sends an email to the IT staff saying, hey, it's getting warm in the data center. But I can turn off those notifications. So let's say I disable the air conditioning unit on a Friday over the weekend. Let's say the temperature rises to about 120 degrees in the data center. No one's notified, and now I fry the data that's stored at this data center. And this data center services 7 school districts and 12 hospitals and surgical centers. But at least it's really convenient to use, since we no longer need a password. So the point is, whenever we gain convenience, we lose a little bit of security. Now, the next topic that I would like to cover with you is phishing, and I'll only spend a few minutes on this, but I think it's important. And this is one of my favorite all-time phishing emails. And I know that everyone on this webinar, I know that you deal with this every single day, and I know none of you would ever fall for this email. So we need to remember, hackers need our help. Hackers need to trick us into doing something for them. Congratulations, you've won a free gift card. Click here. They need to trick us into doing something. So as I mentioned, this is my all-time phishing email example. It's an email purportedly from Google. Hey, someone has your password. Someone just tried to log into your Google account. We here at Google, we captured the IP address, and we have determined that this bad guy is located in the Ukraine. And we all know everyone in the Ukraine is a hacker, right? Now, we here at Google, we saved your bacon. We stopped this sign-in attempt. But now I need you to do something. I need you to change your password immediately. To change your password, click here. So they start by gaining your confidence. Hey, I'm Google. You can trust me, right? Something bad has just happened. Hey, someone just tried to use your password. We again try to gain more of your trust. Hey, we stopped this sign-in attempt. We helped you once already. But then there is an urgent call to action. I need you to do something, and I need you to do it right now. Change your password and do it right now. Click here. Now, the reason why this email is my favorite example is because of the recipient. The recipient of this email was John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's former chief of staff. So this is arguably an email that influenced the outcome of U.S. presidential election. And as though that wasn't bad enough, his password was password. Now, we also need to remember that these emails make criminals a lot of money. Here in Minneapolis, pretty well-known, pretty successful pharmaceutical company. Their CEO goes to China. He's speaking at a pharmaceutical conference. The company's very proud of their chief executive, and they announce his participation in the conference on the company's website. So now the world knows he's in China. While the CEO is in China, he sends an email to the company's chief financial officer. Hey, CFO, I'm in China at this conference. Things are going great. I have come across a remarkable opportunity. I have discovered a startup pharmaceutical company that could open entire new markets up to us. I am going to have us acquire this company. Now, CFO, you are the only individual in this company that I trust with this information, so tell no one. I need you to immediately wire $52 million to this bank account in China. I return to the United States. I'm back in the office in 10 days, which is an eternity in the life of a wire transfer. I'm back in the office in 10 days. I'll give you all of the details when I arrive. Okay. So the CFO, being the dutiful CFO that he once was, picked up the phone, said, bank, I need you to wire $52 million to this account in China. And the bank said, okay, and wired the money. 10 days later, the CEO returns to the company. Hey, boss, how was the conference? It was great. Hey, boss, when do you want to sit down and talk about this super secret acquisition? What are you talking about? What acquisition? Well, you know, the acquisition that you told me to wire $52 million to close. You did what? You're fired. Now, you may think that this couldn't get any worse, but it does. A decision is made to then sue the bank. So now this becomes public. So now everyone knows your company was fooled by email into wiring $52 million. Now, my guess is that the bank will prevail. The company's, and I'm speculating on that, the company's position is, bank, you should have known this was fraud. I'm pretty certain that the bank's position is going to be, you are the CFO, you should have known that it was fraud. So the point is, these emails make criminals a lot of money. So slow down. Technology is allowing us to accomplish more things more quickly, and sometimes maybe we don't read emails as closely as we should. So slow down. So perhaps the next time you receive an email asking you to provide something of value, like $52 million, maybe it would be a good idea if you just pick up the phone and double check that one. Now, I recently had a case, and I thought that it was a good one for us to discuss today. There was an insurance company, a group of executives they formed their competing company, their competing insurance business. There's litigation, there's a discovery dispute. The court appointed me as a special master, and the protocol that I developed was very simple. And basically, I would be given access to the defendants, so the departing executives. I would be given access to their computers. I would search for whatever it is plaintiffs, the insurance company. I would search for whatever plaintiffs wanted me to search for. Once I found it, I wouldn't give it to plaintiffs. I'd give it to defendants and their counsel so that they could review for privilege and responsiveness. And then ultimately, whatever they wanted to produce, they would. So that was my protocol. Defendants were not happy that the court appointed a special master, but that's what happened. So during the course of my work, one file that I produced caused a little bit of controversy. I produced a cartoon chicken pursuant to that protocol. And it was this chicken. And the defendants, the executives who departed, and remember, they weren't happy about this whole search to begin with, they protested. They said, how can this chicken be relevant? This is a complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of resources. Lanterman's out of his mind for producing this chicken, Your Honor. And this is why we were against this whole special master thing from the start. So I got a call, and I was asked to attend a meet and confer because I was told that I needed to explain why I produced a cartoon chicken. So the meet and confer is set, and it was being held at a top 5 law firm in Minneapolis. And I show up, I walk into their grand conference room, and on the table is a laptop, a projector, and up on the screen is this chicken. There were perhaps 15 to 20 attorneys crammed into this room. And I'm actually pretty excited about it because it's clear to me that I'm the only one who knows what is about to occur. So I sit down, and across the conference table from me is the law firm's in-house e-discovery manager. And she had a little bit of a smug look on her face, and she crossed her arms and she said, you know, Mr. Lanterman, I'm sure that I speak for everyone here when I say we cannot wait to hear your justification for producing this chicken file. And I said, you know, the difference between you and me is you see the chicken. Now, instead of just telling you the rest of the story, I thought I would show it to you. So let me show you what I did. I pulled up the chicken, and I explained to them the difference is that when you look at this file, you see a chicken. Let me show you what I see. Let me show you what forensics can reveal that perhaps e-discovery doesn't. So I opened the chicken file using a text editor, like this one. A lot of garbage, just a lot of garbage. Not much here at all. Garbage, 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 until we get to the file slack at the end. And we see what appears to be a fragment of a deleted email. I've redacted the names to protect the guilty. Chris, I have the client records and actuarial data from the servers. Let's serve notice in the morning. We can get policy transfers started ASAP. I will set up policy premium invoices to ship Friday. Cha-ching. Let's grow this thing. And the room, of course, was silent. And the attorneys for the insurance company, the plaintiffs, jumped to their feet, produced that chicken immediately. I was told that that case settled less than 72 hours later for a mid-8-figure dollar amount. So the point is, there is more to e-discovery, there is more to data than what meets the eye. And sometimes your case can be won by a chicken. So don't ignore files based on file extension, or at least be aware that perhaps you should be looking a little deeper. Now, I thought that we would take a couple of minutes. I want to talk about breaches. And, you know, maybe you heard some of these organizations have had a number of security issues over the past few years. But what if I told you that one guy wrote the software that has been used in every single high-profile retail breach that has occurred over the past 4 years. His name is Rescator. And maybe you didn't realize this, but if you're going to be a hacker, you have to have a cool name. Rescator. I'm just Mark, so he wins. And make no mistake about it, these attacks, these credit card type attacks, are only about money. There's nothing political about it. This is not hacktivism. This is simply a way for them to make money. And think of Rescator as the CEO, and his associates are known as the Carbanic Gang. And this group, they have a business model very similar to that of a farmer. A farmer plants a crop, hackers plant malware, bad software. The farmer's crop begins to grow. The hacker's crop grows as they start collecting our stolen credit card information. The farmer harvests the crop from the field, takes it to market, sells it, and that's how the farmer gets paid. And the hackers do the same thing. They harvest our stolen information, they take it to market, they sell it, and that is how they get paid. Now, the way that Rescator works with his associates is like this. I will sell each of you my software for $2,500. I don't accept credit cards, Bitcoin only. Once you have my software, it's up to you to figure out how to install it on your chosen victims. I'm not going to help you with that. But I'm not worried. You guys are the best hackers in the world. Once you have installed my software on your victims, you will begin collecting millions of stolen credit card numbers. But guys, what are you going to do with all of those? Well, I have a solution. I have created a marketplace. I have created the Amazon.com for stolen credit cards. The Department of Justice estimates that Rescator generates between $285 and $300 million annually. Not quite a mom and pop. So the way that we are going to continue to work together, you are going to harvest your crop of stolen credit card numbers. You're going to send them to me, and I will sell them for you in the marketplace. For my efforts, I keep 40%. But before you go complaining about my hefty percentage, you need to understand the two main benefits that you gain from working with me. Number one, I am the marketplace. So you will sell your crop. So you will make money, a lot of money, regardless of my percentage. But more importantly, I'm in Russia. So really what you get is a big, thick layer of insulation between you and your crimes and U.S. federal law enforcement. So you're going to make a lot of money, and you have virtually eliminated your risk of prosecution. Kind of a criminal win-win. This is a screenshot of Rescator's webpage. It's it's pretty plain, not a whole lot going on. And but I do have to admit, I think screenshots are pretty lame, especially when my internet works so well here. So I thought I would just take us shopping live. Welcome to Rescator's webpage. We're logged in live. So you are criminals in the market to buy stolen credit cards. It's more likely than not that this is where you're going to come and spend your hard-earned Bitcoin. So welcome to my storefront. Let me show you around. As my customers, you get to choose stolen credit cards based on the country of origin. So if you want stolen credit cards out of Bermuda, France, Finland, Norway, Ireland, Iceland, Italy, we got you covered because we have inventory literally from around the world. with one notable exception. Russia, because I don't, where I eat. We don't offend our host. We don't do this in Russia. As my customers, you get to choose the type of stolen credit card you want to buy. I want to buy a stolen Visa. I want to buy a stolen MasterCard. Kind of like buying a pickup truck. You get to choose the make and model. I want a gold Visa. I want a platinum American Express. I want a corporate MasterCard. But now it gets kind of interesting. You get to choose stolen credit cards based on the bank that issued the card. So let's see how many banks we have. Maybe a dozen, maybe 15. Yeah, a few more than 15. I stopped counting at 14,000 banks and credit unions. I now wear glasses because I actually counted 14,000 banks and credit unions. And I'll tell you, every bank, every credit union I looked for, I found, including the White House Federal Credit Union and the Pentagon Federal Credit Union. They're all here. None of them are safe. You get to choose stolen credit cards based on city and state of the billing address. Who cares? So what? Big deal. Well, it actually is a big deal. And here's why. Let's say you live in Los Angeles and I'm a criminal in Miami and I just bought your credit card. And in fact, you don't even know it's been stolen because it's still in your wallet. And the first thing as a criminal that I am going to do with that newly acquired stolen credit card is I'm going to buy a high definition TV set, because research conducted out of the University of Minnesota indicates all criminals love high definition television. So as a criminal, I'm going to buy a high definition TV. Now, the problem for me as a crook is your bank, because your bank is pretty good at fraud detection. They're not perfect, but let's face it, none of us are, but they're pretty good. And your bank knows that, well, you live in Los Angeles, you bought dinner last night in Los Angeles, you bought gas this morning in Los Angeles, you bought coffee in LA, you bought lunch in LA, and now all of a sudden you pop up in Miami and you're dropping $5,000 on a high definition TV set. Well, your bank is going to think that's an unusual purchase. Let's call our customer. Hey, customer, it's the bank. Are you in Miami buying a TV set? Nope, I'm on a webinar right now. Okay, thank you. Decline that charge. It's fraud. And now I don't get my TV. And as a criminal, that doesn't really work for me. So the workaround that Rescator offers his customers is you get to buy stolen credit cards based on geography. So if I'm a crook in LA, I want cards stolen out of LA. If I'm a crook in Minneapolis, I want cards stolen from Minneapolis. Miami, I want cards stolen out of Miami. So I thought it would be interesting. I picked a small town in Minnesota, Faribault. It's in southern Minnesota. Population is only about 20,000 people. So I thought it would be interesting. Let's see how many stolen credit cards are for sale right now with victims that live in Faribault. Only one zip code I'm picking on today, 55021. Population about 20,000 or so. Let's see how many cards we have. Well, on this page, I have 60 stolen credit cards, but I have 32 pages. Now, I'm really bad at math, but doesn't that add up to a lot? We have almost 2,000 stolen credit cards in a town that only has 20,000 people. So the point is, these attacks, these thefts, these breaches have not stopped. They continue every single day. Now, the best advice I can give you is, we're not going to stop using credit cards. Use a credit card. Leave your debit card at home. You see, if I steal your credit card, I steal the bank's money. If I steal your debit card, I steal your money. And if I steal the bank's money, who cares? That's their problem. I steal your debit card, that's your problem. Good luck buying milk tonight. So leave your debit cards at home. And then the final topic that I wanted to cover is the dark web. Maybe some of you don't realize it, but the technology behind the dark web was created by the US Navy in an effort to anonymize, to mask its activity on the internet. So it's kind of like a Klingon cloaking device. It's a way to become invisible on the internet. And as crime lab for 38 law enforcement agencies, 38 government law enforcement agencies, we're seeing a steady increase in cases involving the dark web. So I thought that today would be a good time to talk about it. It's estimated that Google only indexes 14% of the internet. That's it. Everything on Google, add it all up, it's only 14% of the internet. But isn't that where you and I live? That's lawfirm.com, vendor.com, car.com, school.edu. Below the surface is a much larger portion of the internet. Some would argue a much darker portion of the internet. You know, I think of the dark web as Tombstone, Arizona, circa 1850. There's no sheriff in town. You're not going to tell me what I can do and what I can't do. I'm going to do whatever I want. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to buy whatever I want. I'm going to sell whatever I want. We are part of the NFL's anti-human trafficking task force. And I would estimate that 90% of our human trafficking cases involve the dark web. So on the dark web, you can literally buy anything, including people. So instead of just talking about it, I thought that I'd show it to you. But first, last week I was in a presentation, and I explained to the attendees that in our dark web cases, we tend to run across two types of organizations on the dark web: governments and criminals. And a woman raised her hand and said, "And what's the second one?" So again, instead of just talking about it, I thought I'd show it to you. So these are real examples from real cases. Received a phone call from Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport Police and TSA. Landerman, we have a U.S. citizen in custody. He was returning to the United States from abroad. Customs did a cursory search of his laptop. You see, before you clear customs, the government doesn't need a warrant to search your belongings or your laptop. Customs did a cursory search of his computer and has identified illegal images of children. Can you please conduct the analysis of these computers? Sure, go get a warrant. We'll take care of it for you. Cops, great job. You got them. Gross. But cops, you need to go get another warrant because we have come across evidence of crimes unrelated to your suspect's current reason for detention. So they've got a second warrant. What we determined is our suspect went to this website, and we're live. So every criminal I'm about to show you is still in business. Went to this webpage and bought a real United States passport. And we know it's real. See, it says so right there. These are real, and it's on the internet, so it must be true. Unfortunately, it was true. When TSA found his hidden alternative passport behind the lining of his Louis Vuitton bag, they scanned it, and sure enough, that passport was valid according to the Department of State passport database. So how does this all work? Well, you need to pay me $165 because these are real passports. That's how much the government charges for the passport. So you still got to pay the man. So $165. You're then going to pay $400 to me. I'm the middleman. I'm the one pulling everyone together. I got to make some money out of this. Then $400 goes to my associate, my traitorous rat associate, who sells out his country $400 a pop. You see, my associate works at the Department of State Passport Agency. So he is actually the one who procures all of this. So aside from money, what information do I need from you? Well, I need your height, your eye color, hair color, shipping address, and I need a digital passport photo. You don't get to pick your name. You don't get to pick your date of birth, because I know better than you what information is going to withstand scrutiny by the Department of State. I supplied the birth certificate. I supplied the Social Security information. I know what will withstand scrutiny by the Department of State because that's where I work. I know how to fly under the radar. And I'll tell you what cheeses me off about this the most. I still have to take off my belt and my shoes at the airport. Don't we have bigger problems to worry about than the size of a tube of toothpaste? What can you do with a passport? Well, you can flee the country. You can shed that pesky felony conviction that you have in your background. You can open up investment accounts in a different name. You can get a job at a nuclear power plant, even though you're not qualified because you weren't born in this country. And I'll tell you, it's not just U.S. passports. We had this case. We had an individual purchase a British passport. I like the big selling point here. Name of your choice. That's a big plus when you make that decision to buy a fraudulent passport. And I'll tell you, we're seeing a lot of financial fraud. That's not surprising, you know, but the financial fraud is more than just buying stolen credit cards from Rescator. Here's what surprises me the most about our financial fraud investigations. The types of cases that start out as civil cases and turn into criminal cases. Primarily, we are seeing financial fraud cases on the dark web coming to us from two types of cases. Family law, we're seeing high wealth individuals getting divorced, and the one spouse is hiding assets from the other. The second type of case that we're seeing an increase in is bankruptcy fraud. You have a bunch of investors. You perhaps embezzled the money. You're declaring bankruptcy. The federal bankruptcy judge has now appointed a receiver to take an inventory of assets. Hey, receiver, I have no assets. What they're doing is they're simply liquidating assets, and they're putting them on essentially what looks like a Visa gift card. It has a name, or excuse me, no name. It has a number, has an expiration date 20 years from now, and with a Visa sign on it. But when you get one of those cards from this location, there's no limit to how much money you can have. So in our case, we had a gentleman who had over $600,000 stashed on what essentially looked like a Visa gift card. Now, the problem with these gift cards is you have to be really careful at the holidays not to give that gift card away as a gift. You have $600,000 on that card. You want to make sure you keep that one for yourself. And of course, guns. And what I like about this gun dealer, their guns are new and unused. I think that's kind of like belts and suspenders. And then sadly, of course, the drug dealers. And, you know, the drug dealers are not on the corner anymore. They're selling their products online. But do me a favor for a moment. try to ignore the words heroin and cocaine. Other than the words heroin and cocaine, doesn't this webpage really read like any other online legitimate retail store? We pride ourselves on offering the best quality products at competitive prices. We make every effort to go above and beyond when it comes to customer satisfaction. Welcome to Walmart. The heroin we offer comes direct from the importer with no middleman. You see, we cut out the middleman, we take those savings, we pass them on to you. And here, they're even trying to educate their customers. What's the difference between number 3 and number 4 heroin? I've always wanted to know, but I've been afraid to ask. And then here is their menu of products. If you want to buy insulin syringes, and you see the price in US dollars, but this weird looking bead, that's actually Bitcoin. You can't buy a stolen Visa card from Rescator and then go and buy your heroin with it. All transactions that I've seen on the dark web, Bitcoin. Now, just because someone uses Bitcoin does not make them a criminal, but all criminals use Bitcoin. Now, not too long ago, I was giving a talk, and a woman asked, what if I cannot afford health insurance? What if I cannot afford the prescriptions that I know I need? Isn't the dark web, aren't the dark web pharmacies a legitimate alternative to buying the pharmaceuticals that I know I need? And my answer to that is no. And here's why. A not so hypothetical situation. Let's say you're an individual, you have hip pain. You've been living in pain for about 5 years. You're not a complainer, so no one really knows how badly you hurt. Over the past 5 years, your doctor has prescribed Vicodin. And now you're up to 4 Vicodin a day, which is a pretty hefty prescription. And your doctor is concerned that maybe you're developing a dependence, an addiction. So your doctor starts weaning you off of Vicodin, and you don't like it. Your body doesn't like it. You feel horrible, and you're in constant agony. You're in a lot of pain. So you decide to go on the dark web to buy the Vicodin that you know you need. Well, let's say I'm the drug dealer on the dark web, and with all due respect, I don't really care about your pain. I care about profit. And Vicodin is very expensive, so I have very little margin, little room for profit. So I go on the dark web and I buy synthetic, man-made, I buy synthetic powdered fentanyl. It's cheap. And then also on the dark web, I buy a pharmaceutical grade Vicodin tablet pill press. And I take my powdered fentanyl, and like making snowballs, I make my own, what appear to be Vicodin tablets out of fentanyl. And in fact, they're so perfect that a pharmacist can't tell the difference without doing a chemical test. And that's what I sell you. You receive your Vicodin. This is awesome. This is great. I'm going to now take my 4 Vicodin. The problem for you is that fentanyl is 14 times more powerful than Vicodin. So now instead of taking 4 Vicodin, you're taking the equivalent of over 50. And then Prince dies alone on his elevator. So the point is, no, there is no legitimate reason to buy anything on the dark web. But in closing, I do have to share with you my all-time favorite drug dealer on the dark web. And they sell hallucinogens. They sell LSD. All products are tested by ourselves. Well, you can't make this up. I think that proves that their products really do work and that a mind truly is a terrible thing to waste. So that is it for our webinar today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact either myself or Exact Data. and I promise I will answer every question that you submit. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your attendance as always, and thank you, Mark, for all of the colorful and memorable anecdotes. I'm sure folks enjoyed the program. We actually didn't receive any live questions because I think you covered everything very well. But as Mark said, if you come up with any later, please feel free to get in touch with him at the address on the slide or to get in touch with us and we'll pass your question along. And as always, please look out for the coming email with a link to the recording of the program and the feedback survey. And please do look at our program for next month, which will be led by Chris Chapman, who is a managed review expert, and he will be speaking on leveraging technology and talent to streamline document reviews. And as always, you can visit our website for a whole host of free articles, white papers, and other previously recorded webinars. Thank you again for your time.